Well, guys, it's finally happening. This has been on my wish list for probably over 6 months. We recently acquired a telehandler, or a boom forklift, or a pettibone, or a gradall, or whatever you want to call it. And we don't have a man basket. Last year, if you've been following us for a while, you know that we rented one of these forklifts nearly all summer long, and that was what we call college time. And that's where you don't know what you're doing, and so you pay way too much for everything. And because we're kind of sick of paying for college time, we decided to invest in equipment, so that kind of takes the pressure off of getting things done so quickly. But the man basket that we had last summer also came with the rental. And so even though we have the forklift now, we don't have a platform or something to safely work from. And we've got a tremendous amount of work for this forklift to do on the house. In true Craigslist fashion, I hate Craigslist. I thought, I'll just buy one and we'll be done with it. So I looked and I waited and I looked and I waited, and nothing really good was coming up. A lot of rusty, old, dilapidated man baskets or work platforms. So I thought, all right, I'm done. I'm gonna build one. And I wanna build one for another reason, not just because we need one, but welding is something that I'm not great at. I suck at it, okay? And I've wanted to kind of find projects where I could kind of tiptoe into welding. And I feel like this is a great kind of beginner project other than just little things. So I'm taking on this challenge to myself, really, to just work on welding and kind of laying out a project beginning to end. When you know it, the cost of the materials was pretty much equal to the price of the man baskets that have been showing up on Craigslist. Of course, if you've played the Craigslist game, in our experience, by the time we get there, they quote unquote forgot about you and they sold it to someone else, which just gets really boring, especially when you live in a remote area like we do and nothing is ever close by. So I made the decision to just invest in the materials. And I'm not some sort of superstar, imaginary fabricator person. So this whole project is gonna look like a bunch of butt joints and probably they're gonna be good welds, okay? I have a friend who is a fabricator and a metal worker, and he's offered to help me kind of get this project completed good. But I wanna challenge myself to get as far on it as I can, and then kind of lean on him when it comes to the final welds. Because obviously this is a work platform, it's a safety piece of equipment, and we want it to be safe. Let's just say I'm not the one in our family who got the gift of building things. There's someone else in my family, if you're watching this video, you know who you are, who has that gift, and well, I'm just not that guy. I took the time to sit down and kind of brush up on my SketchUp skills. Before we started the house, I actually drew the timber frame that we have built in SketchUp, and it was a great chance for Alyssa and I to visualize the house, and also for me to kind of work through some of the design and engineering problems. So I'm glad I took the time to kind of learn very primitive SketchUp skills, and it took me a lot less time to get kind of up to speed and draw this guy out. So this is a very basic man basket. It doesn't have any bells or whistles, any really extravagant features or anything. Down here on the bottom, we have a set of fork pockets, and those will allow you to pick up the man basket lengthwise or widthwise, I guess it would be. And then on top of that, we're going to weld another set of fork pockets, and that will allow you to pick up the man basket from the ends. We ended up using our man basket in this configuration more than we used it this way. I've also designed the rails to be removable, and I think the benefit there is that sometimes not having a railing in the way is really beneficial. I think about when we did the peak windows with the help of some professionals, we were able to remove the front railing from the man basket because those windows are so heavy. We put basically the floor right at the sill of the window so they didn't have to lift the windows very high, and that reduced the risk of damaging people or windows. So I've designed basically stake pockets that will hold each of the railings in. and then the railings can all be removed individually. They will be attached here at the corners to provide some rigidity. I've just got kind of this tab, and we're gonna weld that on there and probably run a bolt or a pin or something through it. Basically, we're gonna be using a 3x3 metal, and that's gonna create this kind of perimeter of the platform. And then inside, we're just gonna use lumber that will provide the deck. And the nice thing about the lumber is it can be replaced periodically if it deteriorates. And then I'm hoping to put some gussets around the railing, both to rigidify the railing, and then also a place to hook a lanyard so that if you have a harness on, you can just clip it to the man basket without having to deal with this railing, which is a struggle that we had with the man basket that we were using. And then one last feature, I put a gate in here on the back side so that you can come in and out, but it provides kind of a continuous railing. That way, if you try to lean on it, there's actually a tab on the inside that will keep it from falling out, or you from falling out. Another benefit, I think, to drawing this out is it helped me validate a few of the kind of question marks I had about the design. For example, where the railings come together, how do they connect, or do they connect? I'm hoping that we can work straight from this SketchUp. Something I'm not really sure how to do that I know is really easy to do in CAD is to dimension a drawing, and I've just never figured out how to do that in SketchUp. I'm not really sure why it's so hard, but I know that using the tape measure feature, I can actually pull the measurements off of each component. So I'm going to take a moment and make a component list, and then we can start cutting. I had the metal shop cut these tube steels, this 4x6 tube, to length for me. Those are pretty substantial cuts, and I just don't have a really great way to create those cuts. That's not a small cut for something to do with just a grinder. I mean, you could do it, but it's not going to turn out good. So this tube steel and the 10-foot are already cut to length. The 3x3 angle is also already cut to length, so we shouldn't have to do, well, actually, you know what, it's not. That piece in there actually needs to be cut. That looks like an 8-footer, so that's gonna have to be cut, so we'll have to work on that guy. And I imagine we're gonna have to do some cleanup on these cuts because they're looking pretty sharp at the moment. And then we've got all this 1x1 square tubing, and then hiding right there is 1¼ 095, and that's what we'll be using for the stake pockets. So we've got a lot of work to do to clean up this metal, kind of get it laid out, and get a cut sheet, and that should get us pretty far. And after that, it's really just a matter of kind of tacking everything together in preparation for the grand welding party. Gonna be close. Oh, barely. 129 3/16. So we're 3/16 out of square. That one's a little far this way. If this moves that way, that'll lengthen that. That one's also a little far that way. So things are a little bit wonky here, looks like. That needs to move over 16th or so. And that needs to move over 16th, which is annoying because we got those already all squared up, right? Yeah, it's about an 1/8 over. And that one's dead on the money. That's within a 32nd. And that one's within a 16th, maybe a little bit less than a 16th. Okay, guess we could triple check these. That one says that one needs to go out just a little bit more, or in at the other end. This one says this end needs to go out too, so can't have both ends going out, then we're just going out. And that's a tough one. It's so close. Or is it? Boy, this is gonna be more fun than I thought. 129 3/16, 129 1/4, or about there. $29 3/8. Tried to move it just a tiny bit and ended up moving it a mile. So that sucks. So I guess we'll check this. It looks to me like we're looking for 129 1/4. Yeah, I moved that a ton. Man, come on. Why gotta be so difficult? Really? It's gonna be difficult, huh? 129 3/16. So I'm a 16th out of square there. Wow. 129 3/8. So we shot back up. So this still needs to go this way. Maybe a 16th out of square there. 5/16. Maybe a 16th there. I can live with that. See where these ended up. About 1/4 inch off. 3/16. And this one's also off 3/16. Quarter. I think it's pretty obvious why squaring this is important. It's going to be a bit of a tedious process, I can see. A lot of things to consider here, and doing this alone obviously takes a lot of patience, but there's certainly no pulling nails and fixing it, right? So once it's welded, it's not going anywhere. So I think I'll just kind of hang the camera up for a little bit, kind of keep working on this, get it to where I'm happy, check back in. Whew. All right, I spared you guys all of that fun. I'm pretty sure I re-squared everything 3 times, at least. I was trying to chase a 1/4 inch that didn't quite work out, and it feels right now. Of course, I mean, this thing's gonna get beat up most of its life, so who cares? But a lesson we learned on the house is that you never know when the inaccuracies are gonna bite you in the butt. And with this one, again, I don't know how accurate to be, and I don't know when, if at all, being imprecise is gonna be a problem. So I'm trying to be as precise as I can be, which I know you metal people out there, you guys are precise. You talk in thousands, wood, hundreds. So anyway, found a spot that I'm super comfortable with. I think I'm ready to go ahead and start getting this tacked down. And we're losing a little bit of sun, but I think we still have a little bit of time before dinner. And wrapping up tonight, we can start getting cut the package for all the railings and all that stuff. I feel like the tension's maybe too high on this wire feed or something, because it keeps getting stuck. That's a little better. Let's try that. Come on. Well, that's improvement. It's not the best weld in the world, but I think it'll hold this together. We'll find out soon enough, won't we? Looks like maybe I'm not filling that in very well. I'm not doing a very good job of getting that bead all the way down. Trust me, you don't want to take welding advice from me. I am the least of all people to give welding advice, but the bead's fairly okay. I'm just more worried about strength. I'm not going after welding contests here. Let's see, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 of these things to go. So helmet on, make sparks. Better. Still not gonna win any awards though. Man, if I didn't know better, guys, that last little bit of weld doesn't look terrible. It's not great, but it's not terrible. Come on, I could get 1 inch, right? If I can get 1 inch. That weld is at least 50% better than the first weld, but the first one I was having wire feed problems, so I'm just gonna blame it on that. There it is, guys. That's the base. I feel like my welding is getting better, but I have no idea what I could be doing better. I suppose that's part of being a rookie, is you can only improve to the point of your own knowledge, and that's it. That weld, you guys who are welders, you'll know exactly what's wrong, and I can't tell you what's wrong. It's not a bad weld, but I can tell that it's probably not an amazing weld. So hopefully, when my friend Justin gives me a hand with this, we'll get some of these other welds nailed up, and he might have us grind down these welds, I don't know, and then re-weld them. I'm not really sure. So hopefully they're good enough. I think they're definitely good enough to get it transported over to his place where we'll do the rest of that welding. But I think I'm getting to, I probably have had more time with this wire feed welder so far on this project than I have ever in my entire life. I feel like so many things, it's just, it takes time. It takes time to learn. And you guys who have been out there welding forever know this stuff. So please, nobody take offense. Nobody take offense to my welding skills. But I'm hoping that we can end up with a man basket out of this. All right, so how are we doing on this project? All we've managed to put together is this green and blue bottom section here. Let me see if I can turn some of these layers off. This will help us to kind of visualize. Let's turn the railing, the tabs, the pockets, the gussets, the gate, the deck lumber, and let's all turn off the, oh, those are good. There we go. Now we can kind of see what we have already, which is basically just this kind of ladder looking thing. And obviously we'll be able to pick it up from either end. And so what I'm hoping to get done tonight is this 3x3 frame. And this is what's going to hold the deck lumber inside that will be the platform. If we can get that done, maybe there's a chance. You know, I think it's not gonna happen tonight. I think I need a little bit more time to sit down and make a cut sheet. I didn't get that done yet. I wanted to get this at least welded. I really would like to get this 3x3 welded, and then the 1x1 square and stuff, we can do that with the rest of the welding when we get everything kind of finalized. So stay focused. Let's try to get this thing turned around in the trailer and get that 3x3 rectangle built. So this 3x3 we actually want to 45 this, and then we actually also need to do some beveling with the grinder. I think we're gonna do, gosh, you know, because we're gonna put lumber in here, I'm not madly in love with the idea of welding inside. I guess I'm gonna leave that to Justin's discretion to see if we need to do that. If we weld the outside, that's gonna be probably not strong enough, I'm just gonna guess. So, maybe I'll work on getting this stuff cut, and maybe time for a text message, because I really want to get this welded up, and that would be pretty tough to grind after the fact and pretty easy to do right now. Okay, I've made my decision. I just decided to pull the trigger. I'm gonna get this stuff cut, and then I'm gonna weld just the outside, not the bottom, but the visible part. And then, because I don't want this thing getting too heavy in case we want to move it around at Justin's, I might just tack weld the 3x3 onto this fork thing. That way, maybe I can meet up with him and we can talk about, you know, how much more welding to do. I think that's a great stopping point for tonight. Well, I just learned a lesson with cutoff wheels. If you try to cut right on the edge, your wheel's just gonna bend right out of the way, and all I'm doing is getting out of sorts, which makes me worry that cut's also getting wonky. So I guess I'm gonna have to take off a little extra in order to get a guide for that cutoff wheel to get into, so I don't end up with a boogery thing. Actually, you know what? It's probably poor judgment, but I think I'm gonna finish this cut, and then I may try to fix that with a grinder. I may regret that, but it might be easier just to fix that with a grinder instead of try to take off too much metal. So I'm trying to cut a new slot. Man, I got all kinds of problems all of a sudden. Why? What's your problem? And it turns out that my blade guard hits this metal right here, so now I can't finish that cut. So, feels like I'm getting all the signs to stop. Doesn't seem like much. There's only, what, 8 of those cuts? But at 10 minutes a piece and having lots of problems, we're talking at least a couple of hours. And we just don't have that much daylight left. I feel like maybe this isn't the right tool for this anyway. It's working fine. It's a cutoff wheel. It's all good. But maybe this is a little beyond the capabilities of this tool. Guys, I just noticed that on this cutoff wheel, there's actually an adjustable guard. So this guard can move back, which would put us deeper into the blade. Instead of out here in the front of the blade, would move deeper. So I think that's worth a shot, to just move this guard back a little bit. I think that might do it. Wonder why people take safety guards off. Good Lord. Yep, that's exactly what happened too, guys. See how that bevels away from the cut right here? I don't know if that's going to be easy to fix with a grinder or not. I think what I'll do, gosh, I guess the answer is to try to get one blade's thickness into the metal. That way it's got something to nest against, so it doesn't do that number. I should have expected that, given as hard as metal is. That happens on wood, even as soft as wood is. So I think learn my lesson from that cut, and try to do better on the next ones. Maybe there's a chance we can get this done tonight, maybe. Is it just me, or does it feel like working through all the bugs on a project takes way longer than the actual project? It seems like once you kind of get all the kinks worked out, and everything's moving pretty good, goes pretty fast. But that first day sometimes, first couple of days, or maybe first 2 hours of a project, well guys, even though we've been working through the problems, I think we're finally done for tonight. I overheated the cutoff saw. Just too much for this little guy. I know that a lot of the tools that we have are maybe not the best tools for this type of work, but like anybody, we just use what we have, right? We got this cutoff saw, this has been probably almost 4 years ago. Somebody was just getting rid of it, and I was like, we could use that someday for something. I'm not really sure. And it's sat in storage all this time. I think we tried to use it for rebar, only to find out that rebar is really hard. It's a brittle steel, and so we end up using a rebar cutter for all the foundation work. Anyway, I think in the interest of not burning this saw to the ground, now I'm done. Got pretty far. I got 2 of the pieces cut, the long pieces. The other thing that I just don't feel good about, and I don't know if I'm just gonna fix it with the grinder or if there's some other way to fix this business, is these really just not great cuts. This one's the worst of them all. This is the first cut that I did where I tried to go straight for the corner. The other ones are better, but that cut-off blade still wants to dive away because it's just so thin and flimsy that that's happening. And my concern is that it's ultimately affecting this cut here. This cut's not 45. I haven't checked it yet, but based on what's happening here, I can't see why it would be perfect.